qada and qadar, right? On the decree of Allah and his power.
Yeah, destiny and yeah, fate. Yes,
Right.
you use all those words so that we can cover these as we discuss.
Jazakallah. Thank you.
Mm.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And so our initial discussions, right, on qada and qadar uh, did imply uh, some sort of predestination of some sort. Not 100%, but there was that sort of implication that came with it. But then last week our discussion was entirely in support of free will, and so I actually I read further in the section. Personally, I was a little bit confused myself at the end of our discussion last week, and I felt like we were kind of left hanging. So then I kind of went through and read the whole section again, and I also read Sheikh Kashifi's comments at the beginning, which I skipped last time, to be honest, because I didn't fully understand it myself. But I think I understand it better now, and I think this will be helpful to us. So Sheikh Kashifi here, he's not bringing up this discussion of qada and qadar and jabr and ikhtiyar for the sake of a theological discussion. As we all know from the beginning, he's trying to take us all on a journey, on this journey that we're traveling with him, and this concept of jabr and ikhtiyar is also part of that journey. And I think if I read what he says over here, it'll be more helpful for us to see where he's trying to get exactly with these couplets from.
I know what you mean. You mean that if you let him explain it to us, that will be better. So
exactly.
let him do it.
Yes.
He has done more work than we have on this
That's
subject.
right.
So let's benefit from that.
That's right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So here he says dar bayan jabr o ikhtiyar, and I have to admit I should have actually read this last time. So dar bayan jabr o ikhtiyar. So about jabr and ikhtiyar. Va jabr chahar ast. So here he says there are 4 types of jabr. Okay, the first one is jabr juz'i va in ضد اختیار است و سالک را در بدایت حال باید دانست که نفس او را اختیاری هست که امر و نهی و وعد و وعید بر آن متفرع است که ان النفس لاماره بالسوء و امر بی اختیار نباشد و اگرچه در حقیقت ایشان مجبورند. Okay, so that was a lot. So he says there's 4 types of jabr. The first type of jabr is jabr juz'i, which is the jabr of the part, the partial jabr, or you could say the jabr of plurality. And this is the opposite of ikhtiyar, or the freedom of choice. وَسَالِكْ را در بدایت حال باید دانست, and the traveler at the beginning of his journey should know که نفس او را اختیاری هست. So he should know that his nafs has an ikhtiyar. It has the option or the freedom to choose. که امر و نهی و وعد و وعید بر آن متفرع است. So his nafs has a choice, and where commanding, forbidding, reward and punishment is part of it, or is it comes with it essentially.
Yeah, it's open to him.
Yeah. كأن النفس لأمارة بالسوء. So this is referring to the ayah from the Quran, which says that then in which Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam says in Surah Al-Yusuf, إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء. Indeed, the nafs is ever commanding in evil. وأمر باختیار نباشد و اگرچه در حقیقت ایشان مجبورند. So here now there's this subtle point, right? So he says that the commandment that the nafs makes is not it's not without ikhtiyar, it's not without choice. و اگرچه در حقیقت ایشان مجبورن. So there's this subtlety where he at the end he says there is a choice even though he is forced to do it. اما از مجبوریت خود آگاهی ندارند, even though they are not aware of the fact that they are forced. Okay, so that's the first thing he says. So that's jabr juz'i, jabr of the of the part. And then he says the next stage is jabr tayaqqun و آن در مرتبه توحید افعال است. So jabr tayaqqun, I think the best way that I can translate this is jabr of certainty, of yaqeen, and و آن در مرتبه توحید افعال است. So that is at the level of توحید افعال, or the oneness in the Tawheed means oneness in creation of actions, deeds, af'al. So that means all deeds were created, or all actions were created by Allah. And this is actually where we're going to get to this time. So last time we were still in this first stage where we were in the stage of ikhtiyar, for the purposes of our own accountability, knowing that we can't blame God for what we've done. Now, the next stage we're going to be talking more about today is this next stage of Tawheed If'al, means that all actions and deeds were created by Allah. The stage after that is Jabr Takhalluq, و آن در مرتبه توحید صفات است و متوسطان در این مرتبه مجبوریت خود را مشاهده می‌نمایند. So here the next stage is Jabr Takhalluq, which is Jabr of creation, for maybe
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's good.
Agree with that translation? Okay, so Jabr of creation, and that ba'an dar martabe tawhid sifat است, and that is at the level of the tawhid of the sifat, or the
attributes.
Oneness of the attributes of Allah. So those who are in the middle of their journey, در این مرتبه مجبوریت خود را مشاهده میکنند. So those who are in the middle of the journey, when they reach this stage, they see the compulsion, they witness their own compulsion, the compulsion upon them. و جبر کلی که آن را جبر تحقیق خوانند. Okay, so then the next stage after this is Jabr Kulli, means the Jabr of everything, all encompassing Jabr. Ke an ra Jabr Tahqiq khanand, and which they call that all encompassing Jabr, that's Jabr Tahqiq, or the Jabr of seeking the truth, I think is
verification of the truth, yeah.
خوانند که بقای بعد الفناء اخص الخواص را دست داد. So this is those اخص الخواص, those special people who have reached the level of fana, or they've gone past annihilation. و در این مرتبه, and in this level, جبر و جابر و مجبور یکی باشد. So here the compulsion itself, the jabir, the one who is compulsing, or the one who is forcing.
Compulsing is a good one.
Right. Or the one who is forced. Yes, being compulsed is all one. There's yeki bashad, so it all becomes one at this point. Babaz inja ikhtiyari. So this is where it's interesting. He says babaz inja ikhtiyari ru'i namayad. So then here, a choice again comes in, a freedom of choice, or ikhtiyar comes in. و چنانچه در بدایت مختار بوده اینجا نیز باشد. So he says, in the same way that at the beginning of the journey, he was mukhtar, or he had an ikhtiyar, he has an ikhtiyar again this time. So this is this journey of 4 stages, right? So Jabr Juz'i, Jabr of the parts, and then the next stage was Jabr Tayakkun, right? Which was the Jabr of certainty, and that is at the level where you realize that all actions are created by Allah. Then there's Jabr Takhalluq, which is the oneness of the attributes, which is in the middle of the journey. And then there's the Jabr Kulli, or Jabr Tahqiq, which is Jabr of seeking the truth, which at that point, he says it all becomes the same, right? So it's this journey from plurality to oneness, the domain of plurality to the domain of oneness, or the domain of the whole that he's trying to take us to, and how we have a choice in the first domain, but then you get to a point where that choice goes away. And it's reminiscent of the Hadith Qudsi, right? Where it says that when you get to the level where the slave loves Allah and Allah loves the slave, Allah says he becomes the eyes with which he sees, the ears with which he hears, the mouth with which he speaks. So having given that long introduction, I think this is helpful in kind of understanding where he's trying to take us. So last week we talked about the first stage, which was the stage of ikhtiyar. So now here, he, in this next section that we're going to cover today, and just please stop me wherever you think it is enough, and we can stop to have an introduction, or sorry, a discussion. So here, Sheikh Kashafi, he says, "Ey dervish, O dervish, sirr jabr an ast ke mujid hame af'al yazdan ast." So the secret of jabr is that where the one who causes all actions is God, right? Knowing that the one who causes all actions is Allah. اما میان فعلی که با اختیار از بنده صادر شود و عملی که بی اختیار از او واقع گردد در نفس الامر تفاوتی هست. So he says all actions are created by Allah, but between an action that was performed at the will of the slave or one which was not performed, which was performed without his will, there is an inherent difference. So then he brings these couplets from the Mathnawi, Mawlana Rumi. So he says, so Mawlana Rumi says, Bab misal ey dil pey farqi biyar ta bedani jabro az ikhtiyar. So Mawlana Rumi, he speaks to his heart. He asks his heart. He says, "O heart of mine, bring a parable or give an example so that the difference between Jabr and Ikhtiyar may become known." So he says, "Dast ku larzan bovad az irtaash va an ke dasti ra belarzani zajash هر دو جنبش آفریده حق شناس لیک نتوان کرد این با آن قیاس. So he says a hand دست کو لرزان بود از ارتاش. So a hand which is shaking from tremors و آن که دستی را بلرزانی زجاش, and a hand which you lift up and shake from its place. هر دو جنبش آفریده حق شناس. So know that both of these movements were created by Allah. لیک نتوان کرد این با آن قیاس. However, you cannot compare this one, the former, with the latter. زان پشیمانی که داده لرزه اش، خود پشیمان نیست مرد مرتعش. So the latter one, right, where you lift the person's hand up and shake it, that may result in pashimani. It may result in regret. However, when khud pashiman nis mard mortash, however, you will never see a man who has tremors to be regretful of what his hand did, right? Of the movements of his hand. So then here Mawlana Rumi, he stops and says something interesting. He says, بحث عقل است، این چه عقل حیله‌گر، تا ضعیفی ره برد آنجا مگر. So as we mentioned last time, Maulana Rumi, he wasn't a huge fan of theological and sort of discussions based on kalam, right? Or discussions relying entirely on the intellect. He in other places, he likens it to a man walking with wooden feet. He says it's good. It takes you up to a certain point, but you can't do everything you can do with real legs. So he says, بحث عقل است، این چه عقل حیله‌گر. So he's saying this is a discussion of the aql. This is a discussion of the intellect. این چه عقل حیله‌گر. So what a cunning and tricky aql this is. What is it useful for? تا ضعیفی ره برد آنجا مگر. The only thing it's really useful for is to take a person of a weak person along the path. Aside from this, you can only go so far. So a man of weak understanding may find his way to that place and gain some idea of truth. کرده حق و کرده ما هر دو ببین، کرده ما را هست دان پیداست این، گر نباشد فعل خلق اندر میان، پس مگو کس را چرا کردی چنان. So sorry, کرده حق و کرده ما هر دو ببین. So the action, consider the action of Allah and our actions, see them both. کرده ما را هست دان پیداست این. Consider our actions to be real. This is obvious. گر نباشد فعل خلق اندر میان. So if there were no such thing as actions of the created beings, پس مگو کس را چرا کردی چنان. Then why? Then don't. If there's no such thing, then don't blame. Yeah. Don't blame people for what they do. Don't ask people, hey, why did you do this or why did you?
Exactly.
فعل حق افعال ما را موجد است. فعل ما آثار خلق ایزد است. So he's saying فعل حق, right? The actions of Allah, افعال ما را موجد است. So the action of Allah is the cause of our actions. فعل ما آثار خلق ایزد است. So our actions, or what we do, is the effect of the creation of what Allah has created. Or it's the effects of the creative act
of the expression of
yes, expression.
Yeah.
Great.
Of the creation of God.
So then, I think he does a really nice job of of explaining this here. He says, زان که ناطق حرف بیند یا غرض، کی شود یک دم محیط دو عرض، گر به معنی رفت غافل شد ز حرف، پیش و پس یک دم نبیند هیچ طرف. So he tries to give an example over here, right? Because on the one hand, he's saying we have, our actions are real, but then on the other hand, he's saying that, they're both created by Allah. And there seems to be an inherent, a contradiction of some sort. But he's saying, Zan cannot, he gives an example. He says, Zan cannot harf binad, Ya gharaz. So he's saying, a person who is natiq, right? A person uh, who is who is
Talk.
who is talking, right?
Yes. Yes.
Either pays attention. He either pays attention to what he's saying, or he thinks about garaz, right? The inner purpose, or the
He either sees the words or the purpose behind the statement.
right. Thank you.
Ah,
Thank you.
Arbi
کی
Nadiyawaras. Yeah.
کی شود یک دم محیط دو عرض, right? How
Mm.
can he comprehend both of these at the same time?
Encompass. How can he encompass or cover?
Thank you. So گر به معنی رفت غافل شد ز حرف. So if he starts thinking about the ma'ni, right? If he starts thinking about the meaning of what's being said, غافل شد ز حرف. He's going to stop, and he's not going to be able to continue talking, right?
If he leaves out the meanings, then and becomes oblivious to the words, then what happens?
Right.
Peshapas?
Yeah. کی شود یک دم محیط sorry. Oh, پیش و پس یک دم نبیند هیچ طرف. So he won't be able to see both in front of it and behind at the same time. Right. So he's saying
it's going to be difficult to really. We may have to repeat some of it again, but this may do the job for us if we can understand his explanation.
Right. Yeah. So he's saying the same way we can't understand or we can't seem to reconcile we can't see both the creation of God, of our deeds, and our ikhtiyar at the same time. It's similar to a person trying to think about what he's saying, right, and pay attention so deeply into it, but at the same time, talk and say the words.
Yeah. Can you go up again and start from Fele Haq Afale Mara Mujadas?
Yes, absolutely.
That might explain it if you just let's go over it again. Fele Haq Afale Mara Mujadas.
Yeah. فعل حق افعال ما را موجد است. فعل ما آثار خلق ایزد است. So our deeds, or sorry, the fi'l haq, right? The fi'l of Allah, or the
God's doing.
God's doing.
What gives the rise to what we do?
Yes, gives
That's
rise
what he's saying.
to what we do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And our doing is the
expression of the deed of God.
Yes.
But that is, if we can understand this and accept it, then it becomes easy. So he's putting it back on the Creator.
Yes.
In this particular stage, that actually what we do is because we have been inspired to do by Him.
Right. So yeah, go ahead.
And our actions are actually expression of His will.
Exactly. So again, as we said, Mawlana Rumi is not a huge fan of analogical reasoning and bahs aql, as he says. So then he says, مرد کامل هر دو ببیند در عیان، او یقین دارد نماند در گمان. So he says a mard kamil, right? Or an al-insan al-kamil, a complete man, right? The perfect human being can see both of them at the same time. And he is certain and does not remain in a state of, goman or doubt, right? So Maulana Rumi, in the end, when you read the Mathnawi, what he always says is that to understand the truth behind everything, the aql will take you up to a certain point, but beyond that, you have to see it with your heart. You have to travel this journey of Sayr Suluk to really be able to get to the truth. So you have to become a Mard Kamil, right? Or Al-Insan al-Kamil. So then he says, اختیار آن اختیارش نیست کرد. اختیارش چون سواری زیر کرد. So maybe I need some help over here, because he's saying that his will, اختیارش نیست کرد. So he has negated his own will. اختیارش چون سواری زیر کرد. And he has put his اختیار under him, like something he is riding on, like a horse that he rides on. So I think over here he's talking about the insana kamil, right? And this goes to that stage of, you know, the second stage of Jabr that Sheikh Kashifi was referring to, right? The Jabr of certainty, where the person arrives at the belief that all actions and deeds are created by Allah. And so when he gets to that point, he negates his own free will. So I'm going to say that, but then I have to.
No, he doesn't. That's the confusion here, because he is not really negating his own free will. Now his free will has overtaken the, so to speak, I can't even say that word. I shouldn't say that, but he's saying it now. His capabilities are as if these are the capabilities of God himself. So
if I may say, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
If I may say, does it in any way mean it's giving us an indication of what the spiritual elevation really means, where the union of the compulsion and the free will occurs? Because we do understand that every action is by God, but the reaction is in our ikhtiyar. And when the reaction is in union with the compulsion by God, that is where the insane kamil, the thing that we're talking about, happens. Does that in any way make sense? I don't know.
Exactly that.
That's what
I'm
I
glad
think.
you mentioned it.
That's very, very nice way to put it.
Let's repeat that hadith again. Now, when he becomes the hand by which the God feels and stuff. That is the hadith that really fits here.
Right.
The words are kind of difficult to choose because you don't want to commit shirk, but at the same time, it becomes, like the sister has just explained, the union with the seeker and the one that is sought becomes so complete that it appears that he has taken over now the affairs totally. So that's why he says, "Ikhtiyar chu sawari zer kar." Then now he's becomes so much in command, like a rider becomes in command of the horse.
Right. That's what I think.
Yes.
Is what he's trying to say. So then, so here's the interesting thing about this. In the Mathnawi itself, instead of nist, it actually says hast. So it says ikhtiyar an ikhtiyarash hast kard, and it's in a different context too. So
I think nist is better because ikhtiyar, his capability, his power, takes the other power, he annihilates the other power. In other words, that becomes zero and he becomes totally powerful.
Right. That's what I think.
Yeah. The ikhtiyar pehle hast already was there. The other person had the ikhtiyar, so you can't make it any more hast than it already is. Nist makes sense. So I didn't see that in Mathnawi, but this looks right.
Yeah. قدرتش بر اختیارات آنچنان نفی نکند اختیاری را از آن. So, okay, so this is also interesting here. So now he's talking about Allah. So قدرتش بر اختیارات آنچنان. So Allah's power over اختیارات, the wills, right? All of our free
Yes.
wills. نفی نکند اختیاری را از آن. The fact that Allah has power over all of our wills does not deny or negate his own will, right? The fact that we have a free will does not deny that Allah has power over our wills and that Allah created our wills. خواستش میگویی بر وجه کمال که نباشد نسبت جبر و زلال. So here he's saying, declare his will, declare that Allah's will has been carried out completely. که نباشد نسبت جبر و زلال. But without attributing compulsion, right, jabr, and responsibility for disobedience to his commands. So it's saying, you have to, be clear. Whatever happens, whatever you do, you have to declare that Allah's will was carried out. But don't blame your own, your own evil or your disobedience to his commands, right? So he's saying, make sure that you take responsibility for the bad deeds that you have done.
Can you read this version again, because this doesn't. The words are not easy to understand. خواستش میگویی, but what is this?
خواستش میگویی بر وجه کمال. So attribute his will, attribute that his will was carried out completely. که نباشد نسبت جبر و زلال. And don't give nisbat, means don't attribute.
No, he says, because there is no relationship between Jabr and Jalal. That's what he's saying. Okay. Because it doesn't exist. Nisbat, any relationship with Jabr and Zalal. That's an interesting word he has used. It's very confusing.
It is, and I read a couple of translations of this, and explanations of this. I agree with what you're saying. Nicholson, this is the couplet where he tries to translate this. And I was reading a sharh of Mathnawi in Farsi, and it kind of explains it similarly to Nicholson. So that was why I opted for that. But I agree. When I read this, that's how I interpret it also, that there is no relationship between.
That's right. This is why I can't read the first line that to relate to it. But evidently.
But again, does it try to highlight the fact that once you are in union with God's will, then all your actions that you carry out are in union with the compulsion that has been ordained already in one's life, in whatever one does.
That's what he should say. That's what he should say exactly. But the words here are kind of difficult to understand.
But then he's also negating the fact that if anything that is not in union with the compulsion of God's will, then whatever your inaction or action that is not in union with God's will is only your own doing, but has nothing to do with the will of God.
No, but he shouldn't be saying that at this stage now, because now we are talking about total union. So here that would be difficult to comprehend.
So maybe to reconcile that, I think Sister Shruti is right? Because she's saying خواستش میگویی بر وجه کمال. So if you implement Allah's will perfectly, right, to as it deserves to be, or to the very end. که نباشد نسبت جبر و زلال. There will be what the true jabr, right? At this level of jabr, there will be, if you follow that all the way through, there's not going to be any relationship between that and zalal, right? And loss. That to me makes sense.
That does make sense, yes.
And actually he kind of delves into this a little bit deeper, right? So he says, چون که گویی فسخ من خواه وی است، خواه خود را نیز هم میدان که هست. So he's saying, you know, چون که گویی, since you have said, فسخ من, my evil was done according to his will, right? Is his will, خواه خود را نیز ham midan ke hast. So he's saying you should know that your will is also exists or also is present. So here he's saying, on the one hand, he's saying you're contradicting yourself, right? Because on the one hand, you're saying what I have done is because of his will. So you're on the one hand, that's what you're saying is jabr, right? But on the other hand, the fact that you're saying this is not something I wanted to do, that in itself means that you do have an ikhtiyar, right? So he's saying you're contradicting yourself. And here he's talking about, you know, the jabriyun, right? The people, the jabr of the ordinary people, the people who just attribute everything to Allah, sin,
will of God, yeah,
right? So he's challenging those people.
Okay.
زان که بی خواه تو هم فسخ تو نیست، فسخ با جبرش تناقض گفتنی. Sorry, so what I was just explaining right now, Mawlana Rumi says himself in this couplet. He says, زان که بی خواه تو هم فسخ تو نیست. So the fact that you say that the fisq, right, the evil was not what you wanted, fisq ba jabrash tanaquz guftani ist. So there's an inherent contradiction between the fisq that you did, but you said that you didn't want to do, right? So the fact that you say, on the one hand, you're attributing it to God, but on the other hand, the fact that you say you didn't want to do it means that you and yourself, and you inherently have a free will, right? پایداری چون کنی خود را تو لنگ، دست داری چون کنی پنهان تو چنگ. So you're saying پایداری, you have legs. چون کنی خود را تو لنگ. Why are you acting like, you know, you're handicapped or you're lame, right?
Yeah.
دستداری, you have hands. Why are you hiding your fingers into your hands? چون کنی پنهان تو چنگ. You know, you have legs, you can walk with them. Why are you acting like, you know, you're lame and you have hands? Why are you hiding your fingers? So it's 7:23 now. If maybe you want to have, you think this is a good place to maybe pause and have a discussion, or do you want to keep going?
Are the other, I don't remember these lines now. Are any of these lines explaining further to this so that we can complete his thought?
Yes, it does. If we go to the end, we can. Maybe I'll try to go to the end of this page.
Go to the end of it faster. They'll make it easy for us because.
So then he says, خواجه چون بیلی به دست بنده داد، بی زبان معلوم گشت او را مراد. So it's saying when the master gives his slave a shovel, right, without saying anything, his will, right, or what he wanted from it became apparent. دست همچون بیل اشارت های اوست، آخر اندیشی عبارت های
Beautiful.
Right, so it's saying, you know, the hand is analogous to the shovel, right? It's among his signs, right? Even though he didn't say anything,
yes,
the fact that you have a hand is similar to the fact that the slave got a shovel, right? It was clear with what the master wanted from it. And the fact that God gave us hands, it's clear what he wants from it. آخرندیشی عبارتهای او. So آخرندیشی, the fact that God gave us this intellect where we can think to the end, that's also among his signs and, you know, his intentions.
Beautiful.
For his purpose. چون اشارتهاش رو بر جان نهی در وفای آن اشارت جان دهی. So when you take his signs, you take them wholeheartedly, در وفای آن اشارت جان دهی. You will essentially devote your life to fulfilling that indication of
his will or his signs. Yeah.
Right. پس اشارتهای اسرارت دهند، بار بردارد ز تو بارت دهند. So پس اشارتهای اسرارت دهند. So he will give you the asrar or the secrets of those signs.
No, he says, therefore, these signs are giving you indication as to what to do. Yes. Therefore, pas means therefore.
بار بردارد ز تو بارت دهند. So he will remove the burden from you. The بارت دهند. He will give you, he will take the load off of you and also give you, so Nicholson says spiritual authority. So he will give you a better load, maybe is another way to say it.
Right.
حاملی محمول گرداند تو را، قابلی مقبول گرداند تو را. So حاملی, so means, do you bear his burden? And here it's referring to the burden of taklif, you know, following Allah's commands. When you take on this burden, mahmul gardanat turo, means you will become the mahmul, you will become the one that gets carried. Allah himself will carry you. Qabili, so are you a receiver of his commands? Maqbul gardanat tura. So in return, you will receive his favor. قابل امر وی قابل شوی، بس جویی بعد از آن واصل شوی. So if you become an acceptor of his commands, you will قائل شوی. قابل امر وی قائل شوی. So if you become an acceptor of his commands, you will become a qa'il. You will become, so Nicholson translates this as a spokesman, someone who speaks it. Yeah. Vasjui, if you seek connection, union with him, ba'dazan vasil shavi. After that, you will become united with him. Sa'i shukr ni'matash qudrat bovad. Jabreto inkar an ni'mat bovad. So sa'i shukr ni'matash qudrat bovad. So seeking to thank him for his blessing, qudrat bovad, is power in and of itself. Jabreto inkar ni'mat bovad. So jabreto, so your jabr, right? The jabr of the ordinary people, that is denying of that ni'mah, right? That blessing. You know, blaming your own faults on God, your bad deeds on him is denying that. Shukr ni'mat ni'matat afzun konad. Kufr ni'mat az kafet birun konad. So shukr ni'mat, so thanking Allah for his ni'mah, ni'matat afzun konad, will increase your blessings even more. Kufr ni'mat, right? Doing kufr of his ni'mah or denying his ni'mah blessings, as kafet birun konad, is going to take that blessing out of your hands. جبر تو خفتن بود در ره مخسب تا نبینی آن در و درگه مخسب. So this is interesting. Here he says, your jabr, right? Again, jabr of the ordinary people. Jabr to khoftan bovad dar rah machos. So your jabr is sleeping, sleeping in the journey, right? When you should be standing up and walking and traveling, the jabr that you're talking about is sleeping. So he says machos, don't sleep. Ta nabini on daro dargah machos, until you see that door and vadargah, that gate, and he's talking about the gate of Allah, until you reach that point, machos, do not go to sleep, right? You should keep traveling. You should be believing in ikhtiyar until you get to that point. Hin machos e jabriye bi e'tibar juz bezira an derachte mivedar. So he's saying, oh Jabri, right? And he's again talking about the Jabr of the ordinary people. Oh Jabri bi'etabar, you Jabri who has no i'tabar, or no what's a good word for i'tabar? No trust or no reliability, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, don't sleep, right? Juz bezira an derachte mivedar. Do not go to sleep until you have reached that tree which is full of fruits, right? Until you get to that point in the journey, do not fall asleep. The jabr that you're talking about is just sleeping.
So,
yeah.
Sorry. So is Maulana Rumi trying to say that when you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then his favors are bestowed upon you in forms where your own determinism is divinely guided. Hence, all your actions are in union with God's will. And therefore, this is how the gifts are bestowed upon the abd by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly. He was saying, don't, he said for the, basically at this point in your journey, for as far as you're concerned, you should take full responsibility for what you do. Your mistakes, your shortcomings, don't attribute those to God until you get to a point in the journey where you do reach that union, right? Where and that's the point where you can then attribute things to God, because when you get to that point, you're not going to be, committing evil, making mistakes anymore.
Yeah, you will be in sync with the divine will.
Exactly, you're going to be in sync with the divine will. تا که شاخ افشان کند هر لحظه باد بر سرت دائم بریزد نقل و زاد. So it's like when you reach that, when you get under that tree, right? The شاخ افشان کند هر لحظه باد بر سرت دائم بریزد نقل و زاد. So when you get to the point, you can become a jabri when you get to that tree, right? Because at that point, you're going to be receiving the fruits from that tree are all going to be falling onto you, and where you can benefit and reap those fruits. هر که ماند از کاهلی بر شکر و صبر او همی داند که گیرد پای جبر. So whoever out of laziness, kaheli, bar shukr و sabr, whoever does not reach shukr and sabr, right, patience and thankfulness, out of laziness, او همی داند که گیرد پای جبر. So that person is going to be caught. His foot's going to be caught because of the jabr of the ordinary people, right? That's just going to result in laziness. That's going to keep you from reaching this level of sabr and shukr, right? Thankfulness and patience. هر که جبر آورد خود رنجور کرد تا همان رنجوریش در گور کرد. So again, it's talking about jabr of the ordinary people here. So he's saying whoever takes on jabr or brings it upon himself خود رنجور کرد is actually, punishing themselves. تا همان رنجوریش در گور کرد. And that punishment upon himself is going to, in the end, take him to the grave, or he's going to take that punishment with him until he reaches the grave. جبر چه بود؟ بستن اشکسته را یا پیوستن رگ بگسسته را. So jabr چه بود? So here he's asking, what is the literal meaning of jabr? And maybe the Arabic speakers here can help us. بستن اشکسته را. So the literal meaning of jabr actually refers to بستن اشکسته را, mending together something that is broken.
Tying together. Yeah.
Tying together, thank you. یا پیوستن رگ بگسسته را, or tying together a vein.
Or mending. Pavastan is mending. Rage bagsasta, a vein that is broken.
Mending a vein that is broken. So this is the beautiful part in the words of Mawlana Rumi in the end. So he's saying to the person at the beginning of the journey who is a jabri, who shouldn't be, he's saying, چون در این ره پای خود نشکسته ای بر که میخندی که پا را بسته ای. So he's saying, you have not broken your foot in this way,
in this path,
of sayr and suluk, right? This journey to Allah. You have not broken your leg. Who are you laughing at? Who are you trying to fool? The fact that you have tied up your leg and tied a bandage around your leg. So
beautiful.
Yeah, Jazakallah. So I think we're at an interesting point where next time he's the last page of this rivulet, we're going to talk about then the final two stages of Jabr, right? The highest stages, which is, as you reach the higher levels in the journey.
Good.
So sorry that I think I did most of the talking today and we didn't have much time for
No, you didn't. It's Mawlana. You were covering what he was explaining, and this is really necessary because, like I said, I did some reading from last week to now, and I need to do a lot more. Number one, this particular, the Persian that we have here, and you can easily read it because you know the language. But here, when you call Ranjwar, that is Ranjur for us. Ranjur is sad, not anything else. If you go back 3 lines. So here, it's difficult to see. The third one, Har ke manad, Har ke jabr avard, Har ke jabr avard. Whosoever brought in the jabr, khud Ranjur called. Then he actually making himself sad. Tahama Ranjure basar gorkar. So all of that, the way I understood is so totally different than how you have explained it. And now it's a little bit opening up to me, but it's kind of very complicated topic.
It is.
I don't feel that the last 4 lines that you were mentioning, that this is not about this man, but this is about somebody who is not on at this stage. I think he's talking about this stage also. He's talking about after you got the union, now you're doing God's work, then it looks to you that this is wrong, but don't bring that doubt into you. It's like that man that was walking with Khidr alayhi salam, and he broke the boat and he killed the child and he broke the wall. At that stage, you become one with God and you are doing his will, and it looks as if you are going against the rules of God, but you're not. So with that in mind, if you go over these lines, you will understand that he brought these lines at a time when he had already told you that you had become one with God already, and your action become his actions. And now he's telling you that don't go back to thinking that it looks like jabr to you, but it's now. That's the way how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do it. And it may not be apparent to your eyes that this is the right thing to do, but don't let the doubt come in now. and do his work and
That's
kill that child that's going to give a bad name to the parents. And it looks like killing somebody is bad, but it's not really, bad in the full scheme of things. And again, I'm not sure because I was not sure about these Persian words as to what this may be. However, I'll read the translations like
it,
you did and see if this makes any connection to the lines, the sequence, the way he was going from
it
stage
could.
1 to the stage 4.
I agree with you about the sequence, right? The way he's that what you're saying would make more sense actually, given where he's put
Yeah, it should, but the words are kind of difficult. Mm.
No, Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. MashaAllah. Beautiful. I just have I was just thinking, I was listening, the aspect of the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Ashik and Mashuk, and this intense love with Allah, you're willing to surrender. There's the Ashik, the Mashuk, and the Ashik is side. The Ashik is willingly. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one is that giving you the ikhtiyar, but you trust him so much that you're willing to surrender all your rights to him. Yes, I have a free will, but I know you make the best decision for me. And you are, yes, it is given, but you're giving it back. Ya Allah, you are the one who can make the best decision for me, and I don't exercise it. So that's one is that aspect of it, that you total surrender with willingness. There's no compulsion, but you are willing to because you trust that relationship, that the love you have so much that you know that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take care of it. Secondly, along the journey, when you have these difficulties, you are with someone who take care of you. Yes, there will be hiccups, along the way. There's nothing to a smooth ride. That now here you are with someone who has the ultimate, power to do anything right and nothing will go wrong with you. No, you will still face some challenges in life, but you are always at peace, at calm. That there's some khair, inshallah. The one who's with you all the time will take care of it. So you ride that path also very easily, without complaining, without anything.
It's like agreeing to put the knife to
Yes.
the neck of your own son, Ismail alayhi
Yes.
salam.
Yes.
And it may not look right, but it is in the long run. That's what the will of Allah is. So very nice. Great job,
Inshallah,
Brother
that's beautiful.
Mahdi.
This is
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, Mahdi, this is beautiful. I think
This is today you're not Mahdi, today you are Jawamard.
Ya Rab, Ya Allah, Ya Rab, mashallah.
Jawamard.
Thank you.
The takeaways from these sessions are important because obviously this half an hour, 1 hour session we have, but I think during the week we must reflect on these verses and further search, as we all say that we let's look for other translation references to strengthen what I think it's important, because obviously this 1 hour there's so much information is giving it to you. Even to me, even few couplets needs a lot of reflection. This is really a lot. I would go by the 4 stage. Each stage has its own. You're talking about that we went from the first stage, this 4th stage very quickly, but I think
Yes.
if you reflect on each stage has need a lot of reflection.
Yep.
As we progress.
Oh, absolutely.
Jazakallah khair, mashallah, much beautiful, alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Would one of you like to do the honors for doing a dua? I think,
Mashallah. We have Imam with us here.
I think he signed off. I think he left a note and said that he had to sign off.
Okay, so Dr. Abdi, request Dr. Abdi, inshallah.
Okay. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi ashabi Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are trying to endeavor to learn about the Deen Islam, to learn all its attributes and try to live our lives according to the dictates that you have for us. Strengthen us, give us the vision and give us the capability to understand your word and your word that comes to us directly through your book and also through hikayat of those that are closer to you, those that have spent their lives in understanding your nature, and those that have gone the path of union with you. Give us the vision and the courage and the ability to understand their word, keep us on the right track, making sure that we do not go off the straight path. And if we do make mistakes along the way, put us back on right track and forgive those mistakes and errors that we may make. Oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do this to please you and to see to it that we have conveyed the message that came to us onto our children and their children that will follow them. And we also like to have that ability to be able to live this truth so that others that are around us that may not be as fortunate to be born into Islam, that they get this from us and then they receive your message also. And through them, the populace, your creation is better guided. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us further vision and courage to gain more wisdom and knowledge and hikmah so that we can do what is pleasing to you. Sallallahu ala khair khalqi sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Ameen.
Jazakumullah khair, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Beautiful.
Wa
Allah
alaikum
reward you all.
assalam.
Have a beautiful week, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.